as happy as I've been last year and many, many years.
Really? Got your prescription right? Cool.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting for May 7th, 2018. Will everyone please rise? Would the Wheeling Honor Guard please come forward?
Honor Guard, forward, march! Post. Post. Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, arms. Honor Guard, fall out.
Thank you, gentlemen. Be seated. Clerk Simpson, roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Kruger? Present. Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Brady?
Here.
Trustee Papantos? Present. Trustee Vito informed the board he would not be here this evening, and President Horker.
Here, you have before you the minutes for the regular meeting of April 2nd, 2018. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos.
Second.
Second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger? Yes. Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Abstain.
Trustee Papantos? Yes. President Horker.
Yes, you also have before you the minutes for the regular meeting of April 16th. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Wait.
Second.
Vogel.
That was motion, Trustee Vogel. Second for Trustee Lang.
Roll call.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger? Yes. Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Abstain.
Trustee Papantos? Yes. President Horker.
Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Spondelis. Clerk Simpson.
Proclamations?
Yes, please.
Okay. Building Safety Month, May 2018. Wheeling is committed to recognizing our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. Our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. These guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality code to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, worship, play. Our nations benefits economically and technology from using the international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organization. Our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the nation. These modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. Building Safety Month, sponsored by the International Code Council, reminds the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings. Building Code Saves Lives, the theme for Building Safety Month 2018, encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2018 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure that the places where we live, learn, work, worship, and play are safe, and recognizes that countless lives have been saved due to the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies. Each year, in observing of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Therefore, it is hereby proclaimed that May 1st through May 31st, 2018 is Building Safety Month in Wheeling.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson.
There's
Next one?
nobody here to,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
That's okay. Buffalo Grove, Hersey, Wheeling Stampede Hockey Team 2018 Illinois High School Hockey League State Champions.
Oh.
Did I do it right?
Yes, you did right.
Okay. On Saturday, March 24th, the BGHW Stampede Hockey Team won the 2018 Illinois High School Hockey League State Championship in the combined division, this team's second statewide title. The BGHW hockey team is comprised of Township High School District 214 students from Buffalo Grove, John Hersey, and Wheeling High Schools. Coaches Chris Waters, Robert Wagner, and Anthony Vitale helped lead the team to victory. The members of the BGHW hockey team have distinguished themselves as good citizens as well as fierce competitors. The achievement of the BGHW hockey team are a testament not only to the skill and hard work of the student athletes, but also to the support they have received from their families, their fellow students, their schools, and their sponsors. The success of the BGHW hockey team is something in which all members of the Wheeling community can rightfully take pride. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, to hereby offer sincere congratulations to the members of the BGHW hockey team for their impressive achievement and wish them success in their future endeavors.
Come on up. Do we have them all?
Yeah. Through there.
So this gentle sport of hockey, you guys all have your friends.
So far.
Excellent. Everybody happy with that. So this is the second year in a row you've won this.
Not in a row, but
Second year.
second time, yeah.
This is really great. The thing I like about it is it's a few different high schools working together. I think it's wonderful, and just the interaction between the communities. So it's not just a town. I just want to thank you for the time you put in. I want to thank you guys for the time. I want to thank all of you guys. This is so they can hear later on. I want to thank all of you guys for the time you put in for the sport and working together. It's really great. It's good for your character to work together on something like this. You can find some place to hang this with, pride, because you guys have accomplished a good thing, great thing. We have the old signs that were hanging around town. Mr. Janik has informed me that there are some new signs being made with updated stats, right?
They've been installed,
Excellent.
but the two old ones are on the wall over there.
If you would like one, or if you would like both of them, they're yours.
Cool.
You can raffle them off to these guys. You can hang them where you compete.
Thank
Thank you again for dedicating your time, and thank you guys for what you've achieved.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week is May 3rd through the 19th, 2018. There are approximately 900,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Wheeling Police Department. There were 58,627 assaults against law enforcement officers reported in 2016, resulting in approximately 16,677 injuries. Since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 20,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty, including Officer Kenneth R. Dawson of the Wheeling Police Department, whose end of watch was November 5th, 1985. The name of these dedicated police public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. 360 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 129 officers killed in 2017 and 231 officers killed in previous years. The service and sacrifices of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 30th Annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13, 2018, as part of the observance for National Police Week. May 15 is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, and U.S. flags should be flown at half-mast. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, formally designate May 13th through the 19th, 2018, as Police Week in the Village of Wheeling, and publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and in communities across the nation.
Officer Kopecki. So you're tall enough, I can stay back here.
Sure.
You know, typically you guys have the, yeah, please, thank you. Great. You know, typically you guys have the job of showing up to where, in situations where people are basically at their worst for whatever situation, either an accident or something intentional. And we always wind up expecting, knowing that you are going to be dealing with people at their worst and expecting you to be, you know, behaving at your best. And I am very proud of the job our officers do all the time. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
And all of you. So, thank you. I'm going to read this one. It'll make sense, you'll understand. This is Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk is historically recorded as the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between citizens, local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks pledge to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the municipal clerks serve as information centers for communities' concerns and on functions of local government, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Municipal Clerk through participation in educational programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the Office of the Municipal Clerk. Now, therefore, I, Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby recognize the week of May 6th through May 12th, 2018, as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to Wheeling's Village Clerk Elaine E. Simpson, Wheeling's Deputy Village Clerk Karen Hannaberry, Wheeling Township Clerk Joanna Gauza, and Cook County Clerk David Orr for the service to the residents of Wheeling, as well as to all municipal clerks for the vital services they perform and for the exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. Clerk Simpson.
Speech.
How long have you been a village clerk?
It's 21 years, May.
Now.
Yeah, no, 21 years.
Does that come with a pension?
No. And it doesn't seem that long, just for the record.
Excellent. You must enjoy it.
Citizens concerned.
You're up. Back to business. Okay.
Okay. Members of the public may address the board with comment regarding all those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Ms. Lagori? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just as a reminder, the citizens to make comments that concern village business. The board will be listening, but the board is under no obligation to answer. Thank you.
Ms. Lagori?
Hi, good evening. Mary Ann Lagori. How are you? Thank you for listening to me. Haven't been here for a while. I am here this evening. I just need a minute. I'm trying not to stress out.
Take a breath.
Okay, thank you. I am here this evening because you have an item listed on your agenda. It's H under new business. I have a friend in the village. He owns a couple businesses. And I've heard some things through the years. He had applied, I don't know if it was for Façade grant or parking lot improvements, and he was denied. And I was having a hard time understanding. I didn't understand why he would be denied when I'd never heard it come before you guys here, up here. I'm guessing it's just because he just didn't qualify for whatever it was, which kind of makes some sense. I'm just having a hard time understanding why. There's a petitioner tonight who is seeking to snip apart part of a residential neighborhood. It's zoned R1A right now. Snip apart, just take a section of a neighborhood and snip it apart to hold what I'm assuming is going to be a mass transportation hub, bringing in semi-tractor trailers, and run that business that butts right up to the rest of the entire neighborhood that is zoned residential. These are single-family individual homes. There's children, parents, grandparents. The streets themselves are 13 to 15 feet. Your sidewalk in front is 10 feet, just a couple feet bigger than the sidewalk in front from one to another. And there's some kind of plan to run a major industrial hub just to snip part of a neighborhood apart. This petitioner has been up before the board in the past, in the recent past, so they're well aware of the zoning regulations we have here in Wheeling. They've come before the board to ask for variances, so they're well aware that this is zoned residential. It has property now that hosts about 80 semi-tractor trailers over on Abbott Drive. Palatine and Wheeling kind of is the general area there. I don't know if he pays an impact fee and all that other stuff. It would only be fair, like the other trucking companies do in Wheeling. I don't know if He's looking for more room. I know there's a field next to him. He can utilize that field. There's a 10-acre lot in Prospect Heights, right there off of Palatine Road. It backs up to what's existing there now, the semi-trucks now. I don't know if he wants to move his entire business here from where he is in Wheeling, or just an additional business. And I'm not sure if he's acquired all 8 point whatever acres yet at this point. There were 3 homes over there. There was a concrete company over there. I don't know if he's acquired it. I know there was 3 homes and the last homeowner was kind of holding out. It was their family home. He grew up in there. He's maybe a decade older than me. And didn't want to sell, and then was told, it doesn't matter, we're going to just build a fence around you and work around you. A little bit of an intimidation. On top of and then after that, a bulldozer. If anyone's wondering why on Wolf Road, there was a bulldozer or a bobcat of some sort sitting there for a while. I feel that was an intimidation. Strong arm, we're going to do it anyway. So I'm also not sure if he assumed that this was an industrial area. There are 4 parcels that were back there that after, I repeat after, you had sent notice out to the homeowners saying you've got 2 years, clear out your stuff, no businesses can, these are just simple landscaping trucks for the most part, but this was after that notice, kind of disrespectful. Those 4 parcels.
That's kind of it, Ms. Logari. Can you wrap up the sentence? Or can you just make the ask, or?
Okay. The 4 parcels were then cut down and stuff was put there, so I didn't want you assuming that that's been there for a long time, over by Jordan Concrete.
Thank you, Ms. Logari.
Yeah.
Ms. Logari,
The inspector that I had talked to in Wheeling,
That's it.
is there anyone on the board that can hear me out? I've got 1 more minute.
I'm the one. Thank you. It has to be the same for everybody. Thank you.
It doesn't increase the tax base. Atlantic doesn't want it.
Thank you, Ms. Logari.
It's inappropriate and disrespectful that staff even let this go through. It's zoned residential.
Yes,
Why is that here?
Ms. Logari, sit down. Next.
Mr. Mestasio?
Good evening. I'm Phil Mustachio, resident of Jackson Drive since 1988. Until recently, later in the meeting, you're going to talk about RV parking in the village of Wheeling, and until recently, I really didn't realize how stringent a regulation that was. And as you're discussing it, I'd just like to see if we can get more information about how many people this affects, how many RVs are not allowed to be parked next to somebody's house or behind somebody's house if they have the right hard surface parking and a fence and everything else. I don't quite understand why they can't be parked permanently. I like the idea of being able to allow people to bring them there for a little bit longer period of time. I think in your new regulation, having them do it 4 times a year is a little stiff. I think people would, use them more, and I really have to get a better grip on having the police department monitor this. I mean, we've got a great police department and they do a great job, but I don't know if they're looking for any more work. I think they've got plenty of stuff to go out and bust bad guys for, and we don't really need them patrolling around and being our Wheeling extra set of eyes for poor guys that want to go camping on the weekends. And that's all. I don't have a problem with what you're going to pass, but I'd like to know a little bit more about why it became this issue in the first place. And, there's times that we listen up here and it's, well, we took a poll of the other communities around us. And I kind of think that we pay village staff to do their own thinking. I don't really think we need to poll other people and see what they're doing. I think we should talk to our village residents and see what makes it work for them. I know there's areas that physically, there isn't enough room to park an RV next to your place, or a boat, which I don't understand why there would be a diversion between one or the other one. You know, they take up the same amount of space. But if there is a place where a guy can put a pad in behind his house, you know, I came here in '88 with a 26-foot travel trailer, and I've had RVs here for 30 years, and you know, I've always been able to keep them where I needed to keep it. So that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Wilson?
As a public body, it's important for you to view the village board as one unit, regardless of who's on the board and at what time in history. We may have changes in elections, but it's important that you maintain the same policies promised historically and not change path. The public counts on you in order to trust their local government to keep the promises you've made. What I have in front of me right here is Saturday, September 6, 2003 story in the Daily Herald by reporter Cass Cleot. The title of it was "Easy Does It for Annexation." That's Wheeling goal as it prepares to take over 7 unincorporated areas. Everything that I read in this story is you guys have done a 180 from 2003 to 2015. There was a huge change. Wheeling hopes its major annexations push is one of the friendliest the suburbs has ever seen. Trustees this week agreed to limit new taxes and foster a spirit of cooperation while taking over 7 unincorporated gaps in the Wheeling map. The goal is to clean up blight and upgrade Wheeling's housing stock, but in a way that diminishes concerns over expense and hardships for the newly annexed areas. Those concerns have stymied the controversial plan for more than 5 years, officials said. Wheeling plans to take over 2 residential areas west of Route 83, an area of smaller homes and businesses south of Hints Road, the Plum Creek and Hunt Club condominiums, apartments that are east of Milwaukee Avenue, which tends to generate much police activity, the blighted industrial areas along Milwaukee Avenue. Trustees have focused on 3 ways to make it a friendly and affordable annexation. The board unanimously decided to avoid establishing special service taxing areas that would cost newly annexed homeowners more than $44,000 to pay for street, sewer, water, and other improvements. A special census will help pay for added police and inspection services for troubled multifamily housing areas. The village estimates the census would help raise about $245,000 more in annual state income and other non-property tax revenue determined by the population. Also, the village wants its legal counsel to explore creating special zoning for annexed businesses. The intent is to erase the non-conforming land use label that prevents the businesses from getting loans, expanding otherwise, and operating normally. Maybe we can get a precedent with that, Trustee Dean Argyris said. We've got to do things by the book and do it right. We've got to make these people feel welcome and not say, what did we do? What did you do by bringing me into the village? Trustee Mike Corker, who operated a local nursery, helped prompt the zoning proposal with his own stories of being incorporated into Wheeling and left with little flexibility. Unincorporated businesses don't have village zoning. If brought into the village, the law allows their properties to operate status quo only as long as they remain standing or aren't sold or otherwise transferred. If you have a family business, it will wipe out the family business, Horker said, of the non-conforming use label. If it burns down, they will have to tear it out. We have to work with these businesses. Wheeling village attorney doesn't know if the village can develop a legal way to ease the hardship for annexed businesses, but trustees directed him to try. Also, trustees opted to use Wheeling's capital improvement fund to pay for infrastructure improvements rather than relying on special service taxes. Village staff have recommended the special service areas as a way to prevent current Wheeling homeowners who paid off their water and other amenities with the price of their homes to pay for servicing incorporated residents. If we want these people in the village, we have to treat them with respect. Village President Greg Klitecki countered. There are some costs we have to absorb as a village. Wheeling hopes creating a tax increment financing district will pay for the improvements in the industrial area using property taxes collected there. We have to let people know in that area that TIF doesn't mean we're going to kick them out, Trustee Patrick Corker said. TIF money can be available to them to improve their own businesses. The annexation process could take several years, trustees said. The next step is to develop an annexation plan and to notify property owners that it's coming. John Svandillis, village manager. Do you know some of these businesses that you promised to be so friendly to are veteran-owned businesses? Were you born in this country? Please direct your employee to answer the question. I think if veteran-owned businesses are being put out of business, we have a right to know if the man leading the charge was born in this country or not. Were you born in this country?
Not really relevant.
It's very relevant. It's very relevant. Does he care about American servicemen? This is how these men are making their living. He's silent. You don't think that deserves an answer?
No.
Veteran-owned business is being put out by a foreigner who doesn't care about America or its veterans.
Thank you,
Isn't it true that this same board terminated the previous village manager because he was one of those military guys that have to go away for 18 months and come back? I think it's a kick in the butt to guys who have served this country.
You know
it's
the rules.
wrong.
Find a seat. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you for voicing your opinions, everyone. Staff reports. Mr. Janik.
Thank you very much. Just wanted to give a, not really an update, but just let you know that projects in the village, CIP projects, capital improvement projects are on course for this year. As you might be noticing, we already have street lights being put up on the south side of Dundee Road, west of the tracks. They're moving very quickly. We have 72-inch, the beginning of our 72-inch storm pipe project, which is directly to the west of the building here. Should be starting in 2 weeks. You might see construction equipment starting to be collected on site end of this week, but it probably won't start for 2 weeks. East Dunhurst has a stormwater project that's going to start, I believe, tomorrow or the next day. It's at the corner of Bridget and Wayne. And the MFT roadway project should be starting late May. We have a pre-con next week, a pre-construction meeting next week, and I'm hoping they're going to start late May. But it's going to be busy.
Excellent. Deputy Chief Wolf, where is our chief?
Thank you, President Horker. He's absent tonight because he has the honor of attending the Cook County Sheriff's Award presentation. The sheriff is recognizing our canine officer, Chris Canches, for the Cook County Sheriff's Award of Merit. The Award of Merit is presented to officers who have consistently performed beyond the call of duty and have shown a high level of dedication, attitude, work ethic, and professionalism. Additionally, our gang saturation unit from 2017, they're being recognized for their outstanding performance as a unit. During that time in 2017, they performed at a high level of self-initiated activity, recovered narcotics, seized a vehicle, and took several illegal firearms off the street. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Mr. Malenefi.
Thank you, President Horker. I wanted to let the board and the public know that the Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce and the Industrial Manufacturing Committee are hosting a career and job fair tomorrow, May 8th, at Wheeling High School at 900 South Elmhurst Road. From 4:30 to 6 p.m. is open to the public and the students. We've got some great participating companies from Argonne Medical Devices, Bird Tog Landscaping, Chris Industries, Devon Bank, FedEx Ground, Keats Manufacturing, Medline Industries, Northwest Special Recreation Association, Reynolds Consumer Products, Sherwin-Williams, Sure, SRU Electric, Swiss Precision, Tool King, TSI, and Wintrust. So it's a great event to help our companies with the skilled workforce gap and provide opportunities here in Wheeling.
These are all Wheeling businesses.
Yes. Yes. So it's a great opportunity for both the businesses to recruit employees and to get students involved in manufacturing.
Well, or just local people in town.
Banking, yes, there's a lot of opportunities. So
excellent.
Just want to let the board and the public know.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
No other staff reports. Clerk Simpson, consent agenda.
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution authorizing Memorial Day Parade from Wyland Road and Illinois Route 83 McHenry Road, traveling south to Lexington Drive and terminating at Amvets. 11B, ordinance amending Title I, Chapter 1.28 of the Municipal Code of the Village of Wheeling in regard to the administrative education of municipal code violations. 11C, resolution authorizing the village manager to execute a one-year extension of a previously bid municipal consortium contract with Dukes Root Control Incorporated for the 2018 sanitary sewer root control program in the amount of $62,025.97. 11D, ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Section 4.32.085, to decrease the authorized number of Class D2 liquor licenses. 11E, resolution authorizing change order number 1 and final to reduce the construction contract with RMS Midwest Water Group for the 2017 manhole rehabilitation program by $25,965.25. 11F, resolution waiving the fidelity and surety bond requirements for the American Lung Association to conduct a raffle event at Kilcoynes on June 9, 2018. 11G, resolution approving an interlocal contract for cooperative purchasing with the National Association of State Purchasing Officials.
I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Trustee Brady, second from Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Next one. You ready?
New business, 13.
13A, public hearing regarding request for Cook County Class 6B property tax exemption for Senju America Incorporated, 1200 South Wolf Road.
This is a public hearing for the public to make comments regarding the request for a 6B property tax exemption for 1200 South Wolf Road. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Herald. Are there any comments from the public? There being no comments from the public, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Trustee Vogel, second, Trustee Papantos.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Oh. 13B, resolution consenting to a Cook County Class 6B real estate tax assessment classification for the property located at 1200 South Wolf Road in the Village of Wheeling, Illinois.
Mr. Malenefi, what have you brought us?
Thank you, President Horker. An application for a 6B real estate property tax classification was submitted by Senju America, the applicant. They plan to purchase and rehabilitate the vacant industrial property at 1200 South Wolf Road. Senju America is requesting the Class 6B based upon occupation of an abandoned property that has been vacant for less than 24 contiguous months with substantial rehabilitation and special circumstances. The applicant plans to purchase and rehabilitate the subject property in order to occupy approximately 15,260 square feet for its own use, consisting of the manufacturing of solder powder used in the assembly of parts for automotive and electronic industries. The applicant plans to invest approximately $3 million to immediately rehabilitate the subject property. The applicant's related entity, Senju Comtech Corp., will occupy approximately 6,540 square feet of the site for its own use, consisting of manufacturing of solder powder into solder paste that is used in the assembly of parts for automotive and electronic industries. The subject property consists of approximately 74,043 square feet with a roughly 21,800 square foot building that has been 100% vacant and unused since June 24th, 2016. The applicant plans to invest approximately $3 million to immediately rehabilitate the property, which would create approximately 20 to 40 construction jobs. And the applicant's companies are currently located in Lake County in approximately 10,400 square feet in a facility at 1322 Armour Boulevard in Mundelein. And the applicant plans on bringing 3 full-time employees to the subject property and add approximately 8 to 10 new employees as soon as possible in Wheeling, and hopes to hire initial 2 to 6 employees in the first 3 years or more in the future, depending on the expansion. Senju Comtech Corp. currently occupies approximately 9,800 square feet and plans on moving its entire operation to the subject property and occupying approximately 6,540 square feet. They will slowly move into the subject property over the next 2 years, and Senju Comtech Corp. plans on bringing all 19 of its current employees, 16 full-time and 3 part-time, to the subject property, and adding more in the future depending on the expansion. The approximately 23-year-old subject property has been vacant and unused since June 24, 2016, and is in need of repairs. Based on initial inspections, these improvements will improve the landscaping, update the exterior of the building, add new interior signage or exterior signage, upgrade the electrical, update the HVAC systems, install the manufacturing operation, construct a clean room, and renovate the office area, as well as to complete other general maintenance. Village staff has reviewed the application as summarized and recommends approval of the Class 6B property tax classification based on vacancy for less than 24 contiguous months with substantial rehabilitation and special circumstances. And the applicant is here should the board have any questions.
Does anyone have questions or concerns? Trustee Papantos first, Trustee Vogel, you're next. Would a representative from the group please come forward? Introduce yourself into the microphone.
Zachary Kafis with Sarnoff and Bakash on behalf of Senju America, Inc.
My name is Masato Shimamura. I came from Senju America.
Hello. Trustee Papantos.
Thank you, and welcome to Wheeling. You plan, according to the packet information, to do substantial rehabilitation, at least cost-wise. $3 million is substantial for that building. Yet you also said that you plan to move in immediately. How does that work? It seems to me that that much renovation would require some of the renovation to be done prior to move-in.
So I understand the plan is in the next 4 to 6 months to complete the improvements and then to occupy as soon as the major interior improvements, and occupy as soon as those are completed. So it's going to take about 4 to 6 months. I think the main bulk is the manufacturing operations.
So you're not moving in immediately and then starting renovations. You're going to start.
Yes, it's going to do the renovations and then occupy as soon as those are completed.
Because the packet didn't say that. It kind of said the opposite way, that you were moving in immediately.
I apologize for the confusion, but that's we need to do the improvements in order for, especially for the manufacturing operation. I'll certainly make sure to make it more clear next time. I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you.
Our current target is to start our powder manufacturing within this year, 2018. So, yeah, we like to move forward quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel?
No, I'm just curious. You mentioned that you currently occupy 9,800 square feet for, is it Senju? And you're moving into 6,500, but yet you're expanding. You're cutting your square footage by 1/3. Is that a misprint or is that?
So the Senju America is the one that's occupying a very small piece and is really expanding its operations. That's the one that's expanding, going from 3 employees to about, I think they're going to add 8 to 10 immediately, and then 2 to 6 more after that. The Senju Comtech Corp is not necessarily expanding as that part of it isn't expanding as much. So it's really the Senju America Inc. It's the related entities that are going to occupy the building together.
I guess too, if you had 9,800 square feet and you're cutting down to 65 for that aspect of it, and you're still bringing all the employees, were you oversized previously?
Okay, let me explain. So actually, Senju Comtech is a different organization. Then Senju Comtech is manufacturing soda paste, which is being used for electrical assembly. Then Senju America was a totally different organization from Senju Comtech. But Senju Comtech is importing every raw material, including soda powder and chemical flux, from our parent company in Japan, Senju Metal. Then Senju, our parent company, is now considering to establish soda powder manufacturing in United States. It's a first trial in Senju, 80 years. Then they utilize Senju America to start this powder manufacturing operation. So it's like it's a huge gap from current employment. But if we start powder manufacturing under Senju America, the employment is going to increase and the square footage is going to increase.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Any other questions? Trustee Brady.
Is this going to be used as a warehouse or manufacturing?
Yes, warehouse.
Warehouse?
Manufacturing as well.
Yeah, manufacturing as well, yes.
Okay.
It's not so complicated, but it's very close system for manufacturing. So it's not polluted, it's not dangerous. We have this manufacturing system in Japan already. Then we move this operation into United States.
So you package in there, in other words. It sounds like you're packaging your product.
It's a material, powder material.
You're going to be manufacturing it here in Wheeling.
Yes.
Manufacturing making the actual powder. And the,
yes, correct.
Yes. So they're going to use it as it's their first trial for the solder powder to manufacture it here. So it is the manufacturing operation.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? If there are no other questions from the board, I think it's great to have a new business come to town. I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second, Trustee Brady. Roll call, Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Welcome. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
13C, public hearing regarding request for Cook County Class B property tax exemption from Police 429 LLC DBA Awesome Design 2220-2222 South Foster Avenue.
I'll read the public hearing portion first. This is a public hearing for the public to make comments regarding the request for a 6B property tax exemption for 2220 to 2222 South Foster Avenue. A public hearing notice was published in the Daily Herald. Are there any comments from the public regarding the Foster development? There being no comments, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second, Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Sure.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Mr. Malenefi.
Thank you, President Horker. An application for a 6B real estate property tax classification was submitted by Police 429 LLC, doing business as Awesome Design. The applicant plans to purchase and rehabilitate the vacant industrial property at 2222 South Foster Avenue. They are requesting a Class 6B based on new construction and occupation of an abandoned property that has been vacant for less than 24 contiguous months with substantial rehabilitation and special circumstances. The applicant plans to purchase and rehabilitate the 39-year-old subject property in order to occupy approximately 7,998 square feet for its own use, consisting of the plumbing, HVAC, remodeling, excavating, cabinetry, countertops, fireplace work, additions, flooring, generators, windows, and doors. The subject property consists of an approximately 35,000 square foot site with roughly 7,998 square foot of building that has been vacant, 100% vacant and unused since December 4th, 2017. The property is in need of substantial rehabilitation and improvements for awesome design to occupy the property. They plan to invest $385,000 to immediately rehabilitate the subject property and will create approximately 5 to 10 construction jobs, and the project will be completed within approximately 6 to 8 months. They currently lease 4,500 square feet in Villa Park, Illinois, in DuPage County, and plan to relocate in order to accommodate their growing business in a location that it owns rather than rents to reduce overhead costs. The applicant plans on bringing all three full-time and 2 part-time employees to the subject property and adding approximately 2 to 3 new full-time employees and 2 more part-time employees to work at the subject property. Again, it's been vacant and unused since December 4th, 2017, and the applicant has allotted $385,000 for improvements. And these improvements will include installation of a new roof, new windows, new HVAC system, tuck pointing, new handicap accessible bathrooms, new drainage systems, replace loading dock doors, the addition of a new drive-in door, and new landscaping. The village staff has reviewed the application as summarized and recommends approval of the Class 6B property tax classification based on vacancy for less than 24 contiguous months with substantial rehabilitation and special circumstances. The applicant is here to answer any questions should the board have any.
Thank you, Mr. Malenefi. Questions? Trustee Papantos? Could we have a representative from, I'm just going to say Awesome Design?
Sean O'Connell, the attorney for Awesome Design.
Good evening, Elizabeth Rushkowiak.
Jason Rushkowiak.
Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. First of all, welcome to Wheeling, and we're glad to have you. Your plans show a showroom, so does that mean that you'll be selling product from your showroom?
Yeah, that means we'll basically to any of the customers that we have, they'll able to come in and buy their product that on the houses that we are working on currently for them, or they would be able to buy some granite from us also, because we do fabricate granite.
Okay. So would that benefit us as far as retail sales tax?
That would be Mr. Munching.
I was going to try to answer that for,
Thank
but
you.
Michael could certainly do that. That wasn't very clear in the memo and the application. Certainly, consumers can come and see what the company has to offer, but we did not really count on any sales tax revenue generation from this particular applicant. But this is great. This is a bonus.
Absolutely, thank you. And forgive my ignorance, but you have your dock doors in the back, and then you have a drive-in door in the front. What is the drive-in door for?
Well, the drive-in door is more accessible for basically our deliveries. They would come in through the front part, because we do have some equipment to move that stuff. You have 2 loading docks, so in the back,
And basically what it does, it will give us more room to operate the business more efficiently.
Okay, but customers wouldn't use that. Okay, thank you.
No other questions from the board? There being no other questions from the board, I would like a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Papantos, second trustee Vogel. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, welcome to the village.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Sure.
Okay, 13E, resolution approving a facade and building improvement grant for Boston Fish Market, 412 North Milwaukee Avenue.
Mr. Jennings.
Thank you, President Horker. Boston Fish Market, as you have seen, is doing some work on the former Pete Miller's building. The business has come in front of the Plan Commission for approval of several modifications, including modifications to the facade, some modifications to the site. They've completed resurfacing of the parking lot and some landscaping work. At this time, what is in front of you this evening is a facade improvement grant application, which would, if approved, would award a facade grant to the business for some of the work that's associated with their build out there. Specifically, they're requesting that the grant would be applied to some of the work on the facade of the building, some work on the patio, replacement of walkways on the property, 2 new wall signs, a concrete floor in the new retail area, which had previously been a porch, would now add a retail sales area to the building. And then concrete flooring in a new large cooler room, which would be considered a capital improvement under the program. This program is a reimbursement program, so once a grant is approved, the business then does the work as would be shown on the proposals that are handed in to justify the expense. And once the expense is made, they do provide proof, and the program reimburses 50% of the cost up to a maximum of $50,000. In this case, the resolution in front of you would be an award of the maximum due to the cost that they've shown. And again, this is a reimbursement. So once the work is approved, they would then do the work, show the cost verification to our staff before the reimbursement is made. And there's a representative of the business here if you have any questions.
Do we have a representative of the business come forward, please? Trustee Lang, you have a question?
Yeah, hi, Mike. Can you explain the retail portion of this, and is it a separate entrance to the retail area, or?
No, it's going to be all through the front entrance. Either go into the bar to eat dinner or go to the right for a full, fresh showcase.
Okay, great. And I just want to say, too, I've been up close to the building, and 1,000 times better improvement with that stonework all over the patio and the building itself. It looks really amazing compared to what you had to work with. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Papantos.
Well, don't go away. Sorry. First of all, the question that I get asked at least once a week by people, just when are you going to open?
Yeah, that was actually my question, too.
Hoping to have all the construction done at the end of June and then start training, hiring. We need about probably 80 people to hire and go from there, hopefully August-ish.
It's that ish part that I think people keep waiting on.
Yeah, this time's a little better. We're the whole inside's almost done. Once we do all this, pour the concrete and all that, we can pretty much tidy it up.
The outside sign looks great and people are very excited. Can you tell us roughly the size difference of your location and Des Plaines to what you're moving into here?
Our restaurant only holds 58 people inside, and then we have our patio with like 150, or a tent in the winter with 88. And this will be obviously over about 400 people.
Great. Thank you and welcome to Wheeling.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
I'll second.
Second, Trustee Lang. Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
13F, resolution accepting a proposal from Ciorba Group Incorporated to provide construction engineering inspections for the Dundee Road Storm Sewer Extension in an amount not to exceed $27,222.95.
Mr. Janik, what is this?
Thank you. Public Works is requesting consideration and approval of this professional services contract with Ciorba. Ciorba Engineering is the firm that we hired, commissioned to design the pipe that's going under Dundee Road. We considered for a little while to do the inspections ourselves, but given that this is much more complicated than the previous installation of the 72-inch pipe from the Heritage Lake North, which was open cut, this is under the road. We're requesting that we hire Ciorba to do the inspections, the engineering inspections for the pipe installation itself.
Questions from the board? Nothing to. All right. If there are no questions, I would be looking for a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion, Trustee Brady. Second, Trustee Lang.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Item G, ordinance amending Title 9, Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9.10, Stopping, Standing, and Parking relating to recreational vehicle parking.
Mr. Jennings, explain this.
Thank you. The board a few months ago under citizen concerns was asked for consideration of potential amendments to our existing code as it relates to RV parking, specifically RV parking and not RV storage, RV parking on residential properties. Staff at the end of that meeting, staff was asked by the board to take a look. The staff of the Community Development Department and and the Police Department have reviewed our ordinance. We reviewed ordinances from other towns as suggested. And the consensus of our staff was that we could make a modification. The recommendation specifically, again, relates to parking and not storage. There was a comment earlier this evening under citizen concerns that I think would be more related to storage, and if the consensus of the board is to have us take another look at that section, we could certainly do that.
Could you please explain the difference between storage and parking?
It's generally considered under duration. So parking, right now we're in the vehicle code, not the zoning code. The zoning code does distinguish very clearly between parking and storage as over 48 hours. But in this section of the vehicle code, the duration is defined specifically within the section itself. The question that had been asked of the board a few months ago was if the duration for parking within the driveway specifically could be extended. The previous regulation was for 24 hours, only with the advance notice to the police department. The gentleman who spoke requested that duration be extended specifically to give additional time to unload. For purposes
of outfitting and breaking down and cleaning up.
Unload after a long trip, 24 hours seemed to be too tight of a time window to complete that work in. So we took a look at it. We spoke with the police department. We did look at other municipal codes. And in the end, our staff recommendation is to allow up to 7 days for that purpose with the advance warning still and advance permission from the police department. The police department did not feel that was a major burden. We don't get very many requests for this, and we thought that it was a reasonable modification given the circumstances. I do want to point out one thing, though. The requirement that we've added here also is that the vehicle could not extend over the sidewalk, so that it wouldn't block people's ability to pass by the property while the vehicle is parked on the driveway for that extended period of time. With that, happy to answer any other questions you have. The ordinance in front of you does include those two changes that I just mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Trustee Lang.
Thank you. The folks that came in and spoke about this, the two residents, made a good point, and there were some things on that I wouldn't consider not being an RV user. But I was glad that they stepped forward and made their points, and we can change this. I do have one question about what's stopping folks from having out-of-town guests come in, drive in, park in their driveway, and live there for a week?
Well, I suppose the short answer would be they do need to receive the prior permission of the police department. So generally speaking, I think we get a small number of requests. I don't know if I can speak for the police department on this, but it's a small number of requests. I would imagine it's from the same residents repetitively. I think getting one from a different address, there might be some question raised as to what the purpose was, if it was a new purchase or if somebody might be staying in it.
And we obviously disallow someone staying in, plugging in and staying.
That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear. That's all I had.
Have a little Chevy Chase scenario going on in your head there. Trustee Kruger, Trustee Brady, you're after.
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Jennings, in the event that some of the driveways are short compared to the RV that's being approved and it does cross the sidewalk, what do those folks do?
Well, I would imagine if they own an RV and they're regularly using it, they either have a place for storage on their property, off their property. They would probably just work quickly, would be my guess. But they would not be allowed to park it blocking the sidewalk.
So is there any inspection once they request to the police department the allowance?
That I don't know. I don't know if they're specifically assigned anyone to go check it.
The traffic unit monitors the parking and gives approval of it, and it's put out to the beat officers overnight who would check on it, whether it's going to be issued a citation or not if they called in for permission.
Thank you. And lastly, to the citizens' concern regarding storage, you just offered that we would look into it again, but I'm not sure I got the explanation of what is allowed and what is not allowed.
So the section, if you look at the ordinance that's in front of you tonight, the entire section is printed there. We've only made recommendations to a specific subsection. The sections relating to storage were not a part of our review. If the board wanted us to look at it, we could certainly look at it, but we did not look at that for this draft ordinance this evening.
I'm not sure how to move forward with that because just like the other residents that came before us, we have another one that's inquired. My last question is, do we know how many RV owners are in the village that would benefit from this change?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know if the police department has a sense of how many requests you get.
No, not off the top of our head. They don't have to register with us.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Brady, you had a question?
Yes. Seems to me back one time we were working on something like this. It was legal for somebody to store their RV next to their house as long as the front of the vehicle wasn't past the build line. It had to be on pavement. It had to be screened, and they could store it there. What is that?
If you look at the ordinance, that section is included in there. We did not make any change to it, but it is still listed within the same section that we're looking at.
Yeah, there's not too many pieces of property that can do this, but the few people that can do it, we're putting them out because now we're saying they can't do it.
No, we're specifically dealing right now with parking in the driveway. So the storage that's referenced within this section would not be affected. This is specifically to park in the driveway.
Because some of them do a pretty good job of screening it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Are there any other questions? Trustee Vogel.
Just clarification, because I know there's people out there looking like they don't quite understand it, and I don't either. So if I got a big backyard and I got a pad back there, I can park my IV in my backyard?
Subject to the regulations. There are size limitations still for that, for storage.
All right,
yes.
But that is a possibility.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good to go. Looking for a motion to approve.
Wait, may I add a comment?
I just want to make sure everybody understands, we're doing something better for the public.
Right.
That there used to be a restriction of 24 hours, it's now 7 days.
Right.
I just want to make sure that everybody understands we're lessening the code because a resident brought up a valid point, and we're responding to that point after research by lessening the code to make it more convenient for those that use RVs. I just want to make sure that that didn't get lost in the other part that is not included today, which is storage.
Well, and it's, yes, let's deal with the parking part right now. So, thank you, Mr. Spondelis. I would be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
That was a motion from Trustee Kruger, second from Trustee Papantos, to basically extend the amount of allowable time to prep and clean out your mobile homes and your campers. Clerk Simpson.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Relative to the storage, there is language in the ordinance. Maybe we can have a discussion about that at the end. That'll give you time to review it and read it and during official communications.
Sure.
Or you want to do it now?
It's,
would you for the edification of the public, would you please review in the code what is allowed to be stored on a property? It's just a few paragraphs. That was my $10 word for the night.
Sure. So the section that we did not, the subsection here that we did not modify, C, recreational vehicles exceeding an overall width of 8 feet, an overall length of 22 feet, including the hitch, and an overall height of 10 feet shall be parked or stored on single-family residential property only inside an enclosed garage or accessory building. D, recreational vehicles not exceeding an overall width of 8 feet and an overall length of 22 feet, including the hitch, or not exceeding an overall height of 10 feet, excluding the air conditioner, shall be parked or stored on single-family residential property inside an enclosed garage or accessory building, or in the rear or side yard, not closer than 3 feet from any rear of side lot line. That should say rear or side lot line.
So they do have the option of storing these within these, storing a recreational, a mobile home, a camper on their property within the parameters outlined.
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings.
Excuse me.
Trustee Papantos.
Do we know when that ordinance went into effect? That part that we're not changing?
I did look that up
Sorry.
back when the resident asked us. It has not changed in quite some time. I can find that date again.
But we've had this ordinance on the books for a long time.
On the books for quite
Barry,
some time.
Thank you.
I was on the plan commission when that came through. It's been there for a while.
That's what I thought.
Good to go? All right. Clerk Simpson.
H, concept review, JV Global Services Transportation Center, 8.3 acre assemblage, west side of Wolf Road at Kerry Lane.
Mr. Spondelis.
Thank you. As part of the introduction for the specific item tonight, I'm going to read just some general comments about concept review, separate and apart from the specific item we're discussing this evening. The current request is for a non-binding concept approval of the proposed land use. The feedback by the board will be used by the development team as a guide in the preparation of the formal land use plan. The outcome of this evening shall not constitute a formal approval or denial of the application. The decision by the board tonight relative to the zoning components of the application is non-binding and shall not prevent the applicant from moving forward with a formal zoning application. Again, that's read just so everybody understands where we're coming from. So this evening, there are a number of, there's a formal presentation, there are a number of opinions provided by staff. If the board is willing to let us kind of go through those so that you have all the information you need in order to then ask questions. After you ask questions, I will come back to you and ask a couple of specific questions that are yes or no. Again, these are consensus votes. These are all non-binding. It is to provide the staff direction and to provide information to the petitioner. So with that, Mr. Jennings, if you would.
Sure, thank you. Just to add on to what Manager Spondelis said, this type of concept review, you frequently see them as part of a plan unit development application. in our PUD regulations, it's a requirement. It is possible, however, for a land use petitioner, particularly for a land use petition like this one that may be complex and could involve multiple parts, they do have the option of requesting a concept review, and that's what's happened in this case. This is not a plan unit development. This is a concept review for a somewhat complex and unique land use application. With that, the review that you have in front of you is for a 8.3 acre assemblage of land on Wolf Road across from the airport. This is currently zoned a mix of R1A residential and AP, the airport zoning for a portion of this, a portion of this land that was previously owned by the airport. The petitioner, through their review of this, is going to likely request multiple zoning actions to facilitate their proposed development. So prior to getting into any of the details of that, they're requesting some feedback from the board that would be used to help guide their preparation for the formal application. The 8.3 acre assemblage would be developed, as you'll see from the petitioner's presentation, as a parking area. It is a unique use. I will let them describe the use of the property. The total package of applications would include a rezoning. As I said, this is zoned R1A and AP currently. They would be requesting, in all likelihood, rezoning to I3, as well as a special use, and based on the conceptual review by staff, zoning variations seem like they would be likely. There is also a portion of this land which is currently right-of-way within the jurisdiction of the Village of Wheeling. Carroll Avenue would be vacated as part of the request as well. That's the north-south street that's running parallel to Wolf Road. I will have some additional comments on the staff review, but I think at this point I'd like to introduce the petitioner to come describe their use to you. Who will be speaking? Mr. Blue? Mr. Stavros?
Sure. My name is Al Stavros. I'm the applicant's attorney. For purposes of the review process as well as the petitioning process, we put together a package, and I brought my experts that I anticipate to use at the petitioning process, not knowing exactly what the questions would be. I'd like to introduce them and come forward. That way they could answer any questions you may have. I'd like to start off with Mike Blue. He's our land use planner. Step up. We also have Mark Rooney. He's the engineer, and he's dealing with our architect, RB Customs Design. Mr. Rooney, if you'd step up. And then I'm not sure about any questions regarding a TIF application, which we would anticipate filing at some point. It's already been tentatively discussed. And I have Mr. Joe Pasecki, he would come forward. And then I have the principals of the applicant that I represent here, that if you have any questions as to the operations, other than what's been described in the packet that we've given you, they can certainly address those questions. So, Mr. Blue, if you would just come forward and take over.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, staff, members of the community. I've been asked to just kind of kick this off a little bit and give you a bit of an overview about the business operation, because as you've heard, it's a little bit different, it's a little bit unique. Again, my name is Michael Blue. I'm a principal consultant with Tesca Associates. We have offices in Evanston. As staff mentioned, we're very pleased to be here tonight. Appreciate the time to hear your comments and thoughts so that we can incorporate those notions into the zoning application that we'll be working with staff on. The business that's proposed is a transportation center. And so the facility is going to include truck parking and storage, but as a transportation center, it's really more than that. It's going to include capacity for doing minor truck maintenance, doing some amount of transfer of goods, and it'll include office space so that the tenants of the facility can operate some of their logistics out of there. And just to be clear, we need to talk too about what this is not. It is not a freight terminal. It's not the sort of operation where there is heavy movement of freight back and forth. It's not a truck stop. It doesn't have that kind of operation. It doesn't attract random trucks. This is really about modern logistics operations. The business plan from JV Global is to work with 3 particular businesses, 2 of which are already here in the village of Wheeling. So it's not random trucks coming and going, it's specific folks that are essentially lessees of the facility managing their fleet out of here. The idea is that there's a central location for them to be able to operate their trucks. Typically what will happen is that the truck driver will leave a personal car and take the vehicle. Nobody stays on site, nobody sleeps on site. There was a notion in the materials I know we provided about this being a way for truckers to not be to be more alert, not be sleepy. This is not about people sleeping on the site. This is so that people don't have to ad hoc park their cars on the sides of highways or in the backs of shopping centers and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit about what the business is. As we said, it's a little bit different, it's a little bit unique. It's a combination of these other activities that are meant to help manage modern fleet operations. Some of the statistics, these were in your packet on just some of the high points, and you heard some of this, the 8.3 acre site. The parking would be about 145 vehicles. The business plan is to rent to 3 companies to manage their logistical operations out of here. Again, I would repeat, it's not about individual operators, so it's not about random truckers coming and going looking for a place to park. The business operations for the office facility where the 3 companies could operate some of the logistics. The maintenance where minor maintenance would be done. Again, this is not about overhauling trucks. It's not a truck stop. It's about changing oil and doing minor repair. And then the material transfer, the limited transfer that would go on. The hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 7 a.m. to noon. And that the vehicles would, the intent is the vehicles would come and go at around the clock, but the most common times would be between 4 and 7 a.m. And 9 to 11 p.m. Sorry, apologize for that. The amount of space is shown here on the graphic in the building. It includes 3 work bays and 6 docks for the maintenance and repair that would go on. Vehicles typically will be at the site for about 7 days. There will be employees for the companies here. The business plan is anticipates there to be about 18. There would be separate parking for those folks. The site would be monitored 24/7 through security cameras. There's no idling on site. There's no use of horns. Is all intended to be limited. All the maintenance would happen in the maintenance shop, so nobody's going to be changing oil and whatnot in the middle of the storage area. The intent is to keep the site clean. It's important to the business to do that. There's no tanker trucks. There's no hazardous materials that are going to be allowed on the site, and these limitations could ultimately be part of a lease. In terms of site operations and considerations, again, as you heard, this will go through a zoning entitlement process with the village, so issues that relate to the site plan, the screening, the berming, separation from adjacent uses and so on will all be dealt with through that zoning process. But I would tell you that the plan includes landscaping and fencing to separate from Wolf Road and the adjacent residential area, and that, again, that gets finalized through your zoning process. In terms of the need for this business, what is the focus here? This is a new concept in the way fleet is managed and operated. It's also a way to coordinate and consolidate and not have these things happen in an ad hoc manner. As you may know, the operators have a similar kind of operation on Abbott Drive. This would be different in that it would have the transportation center aspect to it with the maintenance and the limited transfer. This site would also, again, as I said, go through the zoning process and be subject to the need to review the site plan, the landscaping, and so on. This is in addition to that facility, so it's not as if that business is going to pick up and move here. In terms with the 2 clients that it's working with now, Recreational Foods and Alex Logistics, there's growth in those 2 businesses, and they have additional need for these services, which can be accommodated here. And as I said, the last point is that their business plan calls for finding 1 more nearby business. So again, we're very appreciative of your time. Look forward to hearing your comments and questions. As Al noted, the team is here if you have specific questions about parts of the application, and we look forward to coming before you with the zoning process. Thank you very much.
Staff has two additional presentations, opinions. First, Director Jennings to talk a little bit about some of the zoning things that you heard and a little bit about the site plan, and then Director Milanofi to talk a little bit about economics. And then if the board is okay, after listening to that, we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you. As Mr. Blue mentioned, some of the details of the site plan would be worked out during the preparation for the materials that would be submitted for the public hearing. I have submitted comments that the petitioner has seen. I don't want to go too far into the details of that. There are some big picture things I'd rather point out, though. Staff had some concern with a few big picture items, such as circulation on the site. Both the fire department and community development had concern that the way the entrance drive functions might present some difficulty with the size of the vehicles we're talking about, having this jog at the front. We both had some concern that it would be difficult to have a vehicle enter and exit at the same time, pass by each other, particularly if somebody else is pulling out. With the village having the jurisdiction of Wolf Road, there's certainly an opportunity to have this drive move. It looks from the materials that there has been an attempt to keep it where Kerry currently is. We think that should this move forward to the public hearing preparation, that there should be some consideration for reconfiguring the access drive to create a better flow, as well as some circular flow on the site. There currently, if you look at the north end of the site, there is no way for vehicles at the northwest corner to easily exit. So there are a couple of circulation type questions that we had. The public works staff reviewed the stormwater area. It appears that some of the stormwater area may spill over, stormwater management may spill over into the public right-of-way. We would, of course, need that to be located fully on the site. Our experience with stormwater management near the airport is that it needs to be done in such a way that discourages geese and ducks. So that's something that the project team would need to work with. We had, I think one of the largest big picture concerns that we had was the potential impact on condition of the road. We're bringing a fairly large number of trucks. We had asked the petitioner, as this moves forward, to provide a traffic study and some analysis as to the number of trips that would be generated. Again, we don't have a good idea at this point if those are full trucks, empty trucks, some combination of the two, but we had asked them to assume that a traffic study would be required moving forward into the public hearing phase to demonstrate what the impact might be on our streets there. Related to that, of course, would be the idea of when those trips are generated. Is it at a time that would be considered peak in the morning, peak afternoon, and what the impact on congestion of the roadway might be. The other concern, Mr. Blue had alluded to fencing at the south end of the property with the residential. Staff had some concern that the screening of the front side, the Wolf Road view, there is a berm proposed, there is landscaping proposed. We had concern that the berm might not be large enough. The combination of the berm and the landscaping might not adequately screen what would be the back side of trailers that could be parked for typically 7 days there. Other big picture concern, the building, at least to this early conceptual stage, the building elevations didn't appear to meet the design standards of the zoning code. That's something that we had suggested they work on. Let me just double check and see if I got anything else. Operationally, part of the standards for special use relate to the operation itself and the impacts it might have on the surrounding area. There's a reference in the project description that was in your packet to prohibiting hazardous materials. Beyond that, it's not entirely clear to us at this stage what might be in the vehicles and how they might regulate what's stored in the vehicles. There was also a question of the use itself. It's been identified as not a truck stop, but somehow facilitating quality rest for the drivers. And that's something that we would ask them to explain, just how the facility would achieve that. And again, there are lots of comments that have been compiled that relate to smaller details of the site, spacing of fire hydrants, et cetera, that we would work with them on. But this represents some of the big picture items that we had raised.
Managers Fondilis had asked me to put some thoughts together regarding this petition, and the village established the Southeast 2 TIF district in 2015, and the village's TIF consultant prepared the Southeast 2 TIF district redevelopment project area and redevelopment plan. And in that plan, the TIF consultant provided goals and objectives for the village to follow in implementing the redevelopment plan for the TIF district. And the overall goal of the Southeast 2 TIF district is to create strong industrial concentrations that provide jobs and contribute to the local tax base. And the specific objectives within that plan were as follows: maintain the role of Wheeling's industrial areas as regional employment centers, recruit and retain industrial uses that contribute to the economic strength of the community, maintain attractive industrial areas. Village staff has had questions whether the JV Global project actually meets those goals and objectives set forth in the redevelopment project area and redevelopment plan prepared by Ellers. Economic development staff always envisioned light manufacturing uses on these sites and a higher employment concentration. The developer has requested a TIF incentive of $1.8 million based upon a total project budget of $6.8 million. And the project envisions a roughly 13,000 square foot facility and parking for 160 trucks. The project creates limited tax increment and will require almost 20 years to recoup the TIF incentive. Staff is concerned there is relatively minimal property tax increase, given that so much of it is a parking lot. And I got to commend the developer in the fact that they've done a terrific job of assembling these parcels, and they're really doing exactly what the village wanted. We were hoping that a developer would go in and acquire these residential properties over time. And, but we had anticipated that an industrial developer would do so and put some pretty extensive and expansive buildings on the site that would generate significantly greater property taxes. And this proposed transportation center doesn't provide a lot of jobs, but it would assist companies like Richlow Foods, which is expanding rapidly and needs additional truck parking. However, should the board wish to consider participation with tax increment financing, we would highly recommend that that contribution be limited to the cost of extending the sewer line. And again, this is very preliminary, but these are our thoughts and comments at this point in time.
Trustee Vogel, you had some questions?
Yeah, there was a statement made that you haven't acquired all 8.3 acres. Can you put that to rest? Do you now own the 8.3 acres?
We are under contract.
Mike?
Mr. Stavros.
We are under contract with 3 of the landowners, one being the airport, executive airport, approximately almost 4 acres, and the balance being there's 7 lots owned by one individual and 1 lot owned by another. And there's contingencies in those contracts subject to zoning. But there are no contingencies, I'll be honest with you, in the airport contract. We negotiated a contract based on a fair price that my clients are willing to take the risk, and if it doesn't pan out, we're just going to own the property. But again, that's half the development. So that's the frontage along Wolf Road, and also the property that borders the south portion of the property up to the residential. So we need all 8.3 acres to make this work. We've done our studies. We've met with Mr. Malampathy. We've met Mr. Jennings. We've had our engineer drawings submitted, we've had comments from staff. So we've put a lot of time, energy, and monies towards this development. It's a concept, it's not defined under your zoning code. It's a transportation center, and the needs now of commerce seem to be going that direction. I mean, the question you have to ask yourself is, would you want these tenants in Wheeling to have to relocate their businesses elsewhere, or would you like to accommodate their needs, which this is the need that they need to have accommodated? And it's growing. I mean, it's just, when these companies start up, like Richlands Foods, did they anticipate their growth? Did they anticipate their need for additional trucking services? Alex Logistics, the same thing. I mean, as business grows, their needs grow. They don't have availability of property that's adjacent to them to utilize this type of a need. And this need now is developed.
What happens if you don't get the rights? I mean, does the project die, or do you downsize it?
Well, it's not my call. I mean, it's my client's call.
Oh, can your client speak to that?
Sure.
Or any representative of it?
Ashley Voreljon, good evening, everybody.
Hi.
I didn't hear the question, if you could repeat.
If you aren't able to acquire those lots in the end, will you downsize the project, or will you abandon it?
We would probably have to think about it, but it's going to be probably downsizing.
Downsizing it? Okay. All right. That answers that question. A couple of other questions. And once maybe somebody from staff can answer this one. If we have to vacant Carroll Stream or Carroll Avenue, what effect does that have on the traffic around there, the residential, and anyone else?
I don't have the mouse in front of me, but if you recall that first slide, Carroll thanks, Luca. It doesn't go all the way through the airport property. So all the properties that are currently have access provided from Carroll would be part of this application. So if it were to be vacated, it wouldn't have an impact. The other section of Carroll is not connected to this.
No, okay, good. Mentioned that we should limit the TIF to the cost of the sewer line. Do we have any idea, an estimate of what that is?
Yes, Trustee Vogel, we do, and that is $480,000 for the sewer extension based upon the preliminary draft that we received from the TIF consultant.
Okay. The other question is, are you going to operate this 24 hours a day?
Yes, well, the trucks come in and leave, yes, 24 hours a day. But there's times where they come in heavy and they kind of leave heavy. It is not going to be interfered with our traffic because they need to beat the traffic, so they cannot leave the property at 8 a.m. So they would be leaving at 4, 5, 6. So we'll do our studies, and then you'll get a little bit more accurate numbers for that. But yes, it will be running 24 hours.
All right. And there were two different answers on the number of parking spaces. I think you mentioned 145 and John mentioned 160.
I mentioned the 160 for the actual trucks that would be part of the operation.
And I think you mentioned 145 plus parking for employees and visitors.
There was a parking. It was figured into the site development with the engineering. The parking would be in the front of the building for the employees, as well as their operational people, the 3 companies that we have, at least 2 right now, to do their logistics of scheduling their deliveries and their loads.
So it's 145 is the trucks and 18 is the employees.
Please. Okay. Thank you. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Trustee Vogel, I'd just like to make sure that the opinion of staff is clear when it comes to TIF. Staff does not recommend any TIF incentive on this project. The comment about the sewer line would be if the board is looking to incentivize, that we would highly recommend that number be limited only to the sewer extension. But the overall opinion of staff is that no incentive should be given.
Understood. I just wanted to have an idea.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. Trustee Lang, Trustee Kruger, you're next.
Thank you.
Well, we've had the benefit of seeing the other location that you guys have built up and running, and it seems to work well. Is there any issues to the current location, to the first location?
Not to be confused, it's a complete different operation. I mean, we're not, that operation doesn't have this type of a maintenance facility, a storage loading dock, transfer location, offices for people to, their companies to diary their loads, their pickups, their deliveries. So it may appear to be the same, but it's a different concept, which means that's why it has to be defined under the zoning code, because your code doesn't address this type of use. So at some future date, there would have to be a text amendment, and then we do a map amendment to the comprehensive zoning plan, special use for the need. So even though it may appear to be the same, it's not the same.
Okay. Well, so given that it's a similar concept with trucks and all that, you know, the benefit of the other location is it's off the beaten path, and we're talking about a main road here. That's the one thing that is really, it's very visible, and as staff brought up, there's impact on trucks on Wolf Road, which we will be owning one of these days, and I'm concerned about that. And I know a traffic study's in order, so you know that's a good move in that direction.
But your question, Trustee Lang, was directed to who?
Well, staff originally of, are there any issues with the current setup? I know they're not the same. Are there any issues, Mr. Jennings?
Well, addressing the landscape design to shield the operation from Wolf Road.
Well, can I get that question answered first, and then we'll go on to that?
No, I'm not aware of any issues that we've encountered since that operation was established. I do want to point out one quick note. This particular segment of Wolf Road is within the jurisdiction of the village already. It's not a portion of the road that would be subject to the future jurisdictional transfer. So this segment is already within our jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. No.
Just to address the issue, because we've gone to great lengths to design a landscape plan that shields the visible operation from Wolf Road. Mr. Rooney could talk to that. We've incorporated into the stormwater management design, berming, extensive landscaping. It's our opinion that you won't see this operation. It'd be shielded all by heavy landscape as well as berming. You won't even know it's, I mean, you won't be able to see it from Wolf Road, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. And, you know, just a few other things. It is as Andrew pointed out, that, you know, we have gathered properties, or you have gathered properties together, and that's something that we have wanted. That plan means it's working, okay? And so, you know, I don't know if the current facility is the right facility, but time will tell.
Well, again, that's why we're here. It's concept review.
Exactly.
I mean, we want to hear what you have to say. We want to incorporate it in our petitioning process. Any issues that are raised, we'd like to address them. If not tonight, certainly, as Mr. Jennings said, at a later date in the petitioning process before the Planning Commission. But again, this is a new concept, and we want to make sure we're doing it right. We want to make sure the village is on board. We've already spent a lot of money to get to this point, and we're prepared to go beyond this point. Of course, we want your input. So.
And overall, it's I'd have to agree with the TIF incentives. There is no increment here.
Well, my TIF expert or consultant. Can't hear you. My TIF consultant can address the issues there. We brought him on. He seems to be very knowledgeable in this area. Joe, would you like to approach them?
Sure. Just to put some numbers to the discussion, we estimate there will be approximately $2.2 million of TIF increment generated by this project over the life of the TIF.
And how so? How is that figured?
It's based on comparable properties, industrial properties within Wheeling, and a substantial increase in the valuation of the land based on those, based upon comparable industrial land properties in Wheeling.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had for now.
Thank you, Trustee Lang. Trustee Kruger and Trustee Brady, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a lot of questions for you guys, but quite frankly, my questions, I needed to split them up as questions for staff and then questions for the petitioner. So I'm going to start with them. Director Malanaphy, was there anywhere else in the Village I zones that could accommodate this project? Perhaps a site that already has infrastructure like water, sewer, storm drainage? And if so, were those sites proposed to the?
We obviously had many meetings with the petitioner, and we talked about various properties. You know, a couple of years back, the A.B. Dick property was available, which ABF Trucking rather, and that's a spec industrial building being developed at this point. But we really couldn't identify any that worked real well at this point. The applicant had really zeroed in on this site, and we cautioned them on you know, some of our concerns relative to this property, that we were hoping for more large-scale industrial development with manufacturing uses.
Fair enough, thank you.
Welcome.
Director Jennings, the package materials indicated, and you stated already, that the staff's concern with stormwater management aspects of this proposal. Is underground storage an option for this site?
It would be. You would need to, because the site is so paved in this concept, I would imagine that the underground would be under pavement. It would need to be built to
accommodate weight loads,
accommodate the weight of the truck. We have this we've had underground storage on other developments, and the typical comment from the fire department is that it has to be designed to be able to hold the weight load of a fire truck. So it can be done, but that's the main concern with underground storage under a driving surface, is that it needs to be able to accommodate the weight of the trucks.
That's one aspect of it. The other would be the concern of waterfowl flying around by an airport, and that if you put those tanks underground, you don't have any ducks and geese coming around, and you don't have the public right-of-way issue either. So it's something to consider. I know it's expensive, but it's at least it's an option. My next questions are more for the petitioner. Can the operator, Ashley, I don't know how to say your last name, but thanks for coming. Verelgen, thank you for coming before us. Minor maintenance, can you explain that again about the operation? Exactly what type of maintenance work? I understand it's not going to be complete overhaul, but what kind of?
Yeah, this is not a body shop. We're not doing anything major like engines or anything like that. Tires, oil, and brakes. That would be the only, this is the only thing we're going to offer.
Stuff that keep them safe when they go back out on the road.
Correct, yeah.
So would those items be subject to invoicing the customer that's using it, and then would there be sales tax for that product?
Yes. Yes, that's something we're going to be providing. This is our services to them on our property.
But you would bill them for it. It's not part of their lease agreement or anything like that?
Yes, that is a sale. That's a service.
So there would be some sales tax element to this project that we haven't discussed today yet.
One of the major components in the trucking industry is tires. And you sell tires, you replace tires, you fix tires. But truck tires are not something that the average tire shop does. So you'd have to have special equipment. And tires are expensive. It's a big part of the trucking business. And they would also be providing that service.
So would that tire inventory be on this site as well?
Well, you'd send out for the tire if they don't have it, and then you'd bill for it. I mean, these tires are expensive, the service is expensive. But safety is number one. You know, IDOT comes in and measure your tires, and they'll give you a ticket. They come and check your logbooks. So, you know, tires is a big aspect of the business as well. You want brakes.
To be fair, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a tire shop. No. This is a tire would be replaced when a tire needs to be replaced. So the impact of sales tax is minimal at best.
I can't say that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't want to get my hopes up.
You will get a tire if you need it. Right. You arrived and your tire is gone or flat, or then the service is right there. And
Okay, appreciate that explanation. I don't know anything about logistics, but is that industry becoming more virtual environment oriented, like, seems like retail and everything else is going into a virtual environment? The reason I ask is you have 3 office space, 500 square foot. What are you going to offer your tenants of the office space?
Great question. This industry is growing tremendously, actually. For example, Alex Logistic, I have a manager from that company joining us today. When they started using our services on Abbott, they started with 10 trucks. Today they have close to 100. So, and they're growing, they're bagging, please. And it is so inconvenient for people to have trucks here, shops here, their brokers sit in a totally different location. So a lot of more bigger companies, they want it all in one spot. So that's really why this is unique. It's going to be parking where they can park their trucks. They're going to have their employees sitting at that office, and they're also going to have the docks that they can use for their loads, and shop to do the tires split. So it is really what people really need and ask us for nowadays.
But it's not an electronic business. It's still pretty hands-on as far as, you know, needing a body, needing a person.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Metal panel system for the building itself. How do you as the petitioner feel about the fact that the design guidelines really frown upon that type of building material?
Actually had a discussion today about this. Do you want to help me out with this?
We've had a discussion, and I think we need to talk to staff about it a little more. There are a lot of different finishes that are available on metal buildings, so they don't look like the typical metal building. There are some with stucco finishes, for example, and we need to discuss that with staff to see if that meets the requirements.
But precast?
Precast is a consideration.
It is?
Well, it would be. If we're not allowed to do that, our next step probably would be precast.
Would have to be. Traffic study, that is certainly super important, and I can't stress enough that the Village of Wheeling already owns that stretch of Wolf Road, and that's going to take on a lot of that truck traffic. When you do your traffic study, I would ask that you pay attention to the area of southbound Wolf Road that reduces from 2 lanes to 1 lane, and then it goes back into 2 lanes again. There's a bottleneck there anyway. I can't imagine what the bottleneck would be like with 145 to 160 trucks trying to maneuver into that area. So I would just ask that you consider that area and what that's going to do to the traffic study itself, because it's already a problem. Site logic and flow. If the project gets a nod to move forward, are you guys prepared to potentially lose parking spaces or building square footage to accommodate the safety issues? Training, turning radius, truck, emergency vehicles, plus it's one access in and out. I just feel like that. I work for a safety company by day. I just feel like there's nothing safe about having only one way out.
Well, I guess that's something that we have to take under consideration. But remember, most of the traffic, in the morning it's all out. In the evening it's all in. And then with the scattered traffic in between. So it's not like it's like there's a lot of two-way traffic. There's very little two-way traffic.
I think I've addressed most of my questions. I do have, I'd like to echo Director Malanofi's comment commending the petitioners for their tenacity and ambition. It is certainly commendable. I think I'll wait and see what the rest of my colleagues say before I go any further. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. Trustee Brady, and then Trustee Pontus, you're up next.
Are these, are you going to park just trailers there?
No, trucks and trailers.
Truck and
But Richelieu, for example, they have only trailers, and then they have the bobtail that kind of comes and picks it up. Yeah.
They'll leave the truck and trailer there,
Yes.
and then somebody come and pick them up?
Richelieu Pizza, they fill up the trailers with the product at our Abbott property right now. and it's basically ready to go. So they have a company that comes in. They don't park both parcels at the same time. They only have trailers. So there's no bobtail. That's for Richelieu. And that's the company that's probably going to take 30, 40% of this new property.
You'll have just trailers parked there.
Trailers, but not, the spot is long enough to park trailer and the bobtail together as a unit.
Okay. Somebody help me out. Are we still leaving that part of Dean back there? Andrew?
I think that was vacated. That was, I remember that was purchased by Foyle.
No, that has not gone through at this point. It was vacated, but the ordinance was not. Handy Foyle has not completed the conditions, and we're in conversation with them about rezoning that. It was done, Attorney Stavros, but one of the conditions hasn't been met, and we're still talking with Handy Foyle.
Just so the board knows, if in fact that doesn't happen, my clients have expressed an interest to purchase that property and to make it part of the project.
Well, in this day and age of internet and Amazon, I think this is going to become quite the thing of the future. Trucks. It's going to get worse and worse. I don't think this is a bad project. It certainly cleans up a nice area along Wolf Road there. But needs a lot of work, fellas. The layout is horrible. I'm not a truck driver, and I can see problems with the zoo here, believe me. But anyways, I think we're going to go at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brady. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. When we talk about TIF, we've always looked at the but-for test. But for TIF incentive, where will we be? What's the answer to that question?
Based on our preliminary pro formas, without any TIF financing, we would have to go out and try to expand the loan that the bank is, has a term sheet offered. And in our pro forma, that would, first of all, we don't think we could get a bank to agree to do that because the return on the investment overall on just a cash-on-cash return is over 10 years is less than 1% per year. So the numbers simply don't pencil out, if you will. And so that, we believe, is, and the reason why that's the case is that there's a lot of extraordinary costs, such as the previously mentioned sewer extension.
In that case, too, though, you're telling me that the increment is not going to be that great.
The increment, yeah, over 20 years, the increment we estimated is 2.2 million. And as was mentioned, I think, before, most or a good portion of that increment would be needed to pay for a lot of these extraordinary costs, such as the sewer extension.
Okay. In the packet, you talk about, and this is probably more for one of the, right. You talk about quality rest for drivers. Are you indicating that drivers are going to, what does that mean? I don't understand how that comes into this concept at all.
Good question, Ashley. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, the idea of having a facility like this provides some place where a driver can come, leave their car, take the truck, come back, and have their own car locally. This is as opposed to drivers sleeping in trucks, which they can't do here, either in the backs of shopping centers or, you see it if you drive at night on the road, on the side of the road. So the idea is that this actually gets the drivers home rather than having them be somewhere in the interim. That's really all that's about.
So there is absolutely no provision that drivers will be sleeping in their cabs?
It's absolutely not, it's not allowed.
And how will you patrol that?
Well, we have securities, we have cameras, we have staff on, we're gonna be in the office, we're gonna have staff there, so there's no way, first of all, a lot of them, they are either live in Wheeling or close to Wheeling. So that's the reason why they want something closer, so they can be closer to their home while they're waiting for a load, or, there's a few hours here, a few hours there, they don't need to be stuck on the road when it's winter. That's really what they're looking for. They're not going to sleep in the trucks. We had this one for over a year, and I've never seen one person sleeping in a truck.
Okay. Can you explain the transfer of goods? Where are these goods coming from that are going to be in your warehouse, and how long will they be in your warehouse? And why are they not just going from Richelieu Foods or whatever company is transferring the goods? I'm very confused.
Basically, these companies are looking for those docks for short-term storage. So if you picked up a load from Wisconsin, let's say, and you need to bring it to Southside somewhere, and then you need, and there's another one waiting. So you basically bring it, you come from Wisconsin, you put it in your facility, so you empty, you go and you pick it up. You go, you deliver the other one, you come back and you pick up the one for Indiana. So they can't fit 2 loads into one trailer. So they need to unload it somewhere and then load it back and deliver the rest. So it's going to be I don't know if I answer that, but it's a little bit more into transportation.
How would Richelieu Foods use?
No, Richelieu would not be using our facility probably, but Richelieu is subcontracting Midwest Cargo. They're doing all the transportation. So I talked to the higher management there, the owner, and he said, yeah, I have quite a few companies up there, and I'll be more than happy to use your services, because his office is down south.
Okay. Tell me about the maintenance work. Are you going to be storing materials for maintenance? You mentioned brakes, you mentioned oil, you mentioned, what type of maintenance work is going to happen there, and what type of material is going to be stored on site in order to perform this maintenance?
So we would have to have, there's certain tires they use. There's not a lot, there's maybe 5 kinds. So we would have to have that in stock, because they can't really wait for us to order, and they need a new tire right away. So we would have to have tires in place. We would have to have oil. We need to have the product presently at the property in order to provide the service. So yes, we would be storing that at the property.
And where would it be stored? Inside, outside?
Inside.
Only inside?
Inside. Okay. Again, for the security purposes, you having your product outside.
I'm thinking more aesthetically. I am also concerned about Wolf Road, the wear and tear on the road, and I think this is a wonderful idea. I'm just not sure this location is the best for your project. Besides the wear and tear on Wolf Road, and since we have jurisdictional authority over that road, what's going to happen to it? How often are we going to have to repair it? Traffic, you're going to be coming from the south and making a left-hand turn into your facility during rush hour traffic. It's going to be a problem with these trucks coming in and out, especially coming in at the end of the day. And that is a bit of a problem that I'm trying to wrap my head around. Sorry, I've got notes all over the place. I also have some concerns for the neighbors to the south. I realize that overall our comprehensive plan and the TIF plan that was set up for the Southeast TIF District, Southeast 2, was that this would change in zoning. However, we still do have residents there. And we have to respect the fact that people live there. And what are we going to do to accommodate them and make sure that their quality of life has not changed?
Again, the initial plan is for there to be, initial discussions have been for there to be a fence along the south side of the property. But at this point, we hope to work that out and have a lot of discussion about that through the zoning approval process.
And I don't want to get into too much detail, but 145 trucks leaving in the morning, that's a lot of trucks going out, you know, one after the other to the other.
Maybe we could ask Ashley to clarify that. I don't know that there's 145 trucks coming and going every morning and every evening. Maybe you could clarify that.
No, a lot of people go to LA and they come back. There's no way. Some of them I don't even see for weeks. So it really, they're not local. They go to different states. So on Abbott, I don't see X amount of trucks every morning coming and leaving. So it's percentage of that.
But I do think we have to show a concern for the people who are living there at this point. Sure. And, you know, that will be addressed, I'm sure, once you get into plan review. And I'm also sure that engineering, fire, and every other department is going to have a whole lot of concerns that, you know, this is concept and not at this point that I want to discuss them, but I want to warn you that, you know, this is a major project and it is going to be, there's going to be a lot to do to get to that. I think the other trustees did answer my question, especially with the water retention. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Vogel, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, just one other question. Do you plan on selling fuel?
Selling fuel?
Yes.
No.
No? Okay.
We're not.
Wouldn't it be a natural fit? Got a truck that comes in off the road, they need fuel, right?
No.
Okay. No plans?
No.
Thank you.
May I add to that? We
Yes.
talked about this during one of our meetings. The closest diesel fuel sale is the Speedway at Milwaukee and Lake Cook Road. So I think to Trustee Papantos's earlier question, and several trustees brought it up, the idea of traffic on Wolf Road, you're talking if trucks fuel up there, and there are other options, but the closest one to Wheeling is actually straight through what is residential, all the way up Wolf Road to Lake Cook Road.
And just to clarify, Wolf Road north of Hintz does not allow for trucks, correct?
I believe that is true. Yes.
There's no truck traffic allowed on Wolf Road going through from Dundee.
I'm clarifying a statement made by the petitioner at an earlier meeting.
Yeah, okay. But to address that issue about fuel, we don't have a traffic study, but the traffic flow would be to Hintz Road and then directly east to Milwaukee. It would not continue further north on Wolf Road. And going south, they would go to Palatine Road to Milwaukee to get to the interstates.
I think that proves the same point, though, that it's quite an impact now that you're moving significantly through most of the village of Wheeling in order to get to fuel.
We're moving north, short distance to Hintz Road, yes.
Okay.
Hintz Road to Milwaukee.
Okay.
Right. To Lake Cook Road.
Nope, get to Milwaukee to Lake Cook, right. Yes, Lake Cook. No.
Everybody know where the Speedway is? Good to go.
Got stuck.
Again, Mr. Spondelis, that will be addressed in a traffic study. We definitely will do that. And the concerns that you brought up on Wolf Road, left and out, yes, it's all going to be looked at.
Thank you, Mr. Stavros. Well, we have some questions that the board needs to come to a consensus on. Does the project appropriately function within the parameters of the existing zoning category? This is really more, Mr. Jennings, or do you want to?
Yes, I think the first question about zoning has been addressed. Mr. Jennings, please correct me if I miss anything. The village has anticipated through previous approved plans that this area would be zoned industrial. So from staff's perspective, we don't see that there is a zoning issue. The crux of the conversation really is about the special use. So I don't know if we necessarily need to answer the first question about zoning, maybe more focus on special use?
Yeah, well, more, just answer this, might as well just, we're this far.
Sure. Sure, I think the idea, at least from the staff perspective, it's not a surprise to see, after you have a comprehensive plan, identify this area as being industrial on the future land use plan, I don't think that it's a surprise to see a potential petition for rezoning. The comprehensive plan is not very specific about exactly the nature of the zoning, the intensity. It just is a general description of industrial. So for that question, the idea of rezoning to industrial is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that's a large part of the standards for rezoning are the questions of how it relates to the comprehensive plan and the what the rezoning would mean in terms of the surrounding area.
So then, to the meat of the matter, we need to decide whether or not the board feels a special use permit for this proposed use would be appropriate at this site, given that an industrial rezoning is likely, is possible. Is that about right?
And just for a little bit of guidance on this question, what is being asked of you isn't necessarily the details of how you get to the special use. The petitioners identify that there's a text amendment that might be part of this application in order to define this use. On the Abbott Drive facility, for example, the petition that they requested had multiple uses identified, and in that application, they assembled multiple special uses already defined in our code to make up one larger. In this case, rather than do that, they're looking at the possibility of a new use defined that more specifically matches what they're talking. But the end result of it would be a special use application, and that special use application would have the same standards of every other special use application. So the same 6 questions would be asked of the Plan Commission. The petition would be answering the same 6 questions. The Plan Commission would review how they meet the standards for a special use, just as they would on any other special use.
President Horker, I think you can break it down into 2 questions for a consensus perspective. First is, poll the board, does the board feel that a rezoning of this property to I-3 on a, again, conceptual basis would be appropriate? And then the second question would be, again, on a conceptual basis, does the board feel that the issuance of a special use permit for the proposed use should be further considered? I think those are the 2 questions related to zoning that
all right.
You can get a feel for.
That makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Furlow.
Sure.
I'd like to move forward with those questions. I'll start at Trustee Brady. Do you, would you be, wordsmith that, Mr. Furlow?
Is the board supportive of a rezoning of this site
there we go.
To an I-3, again, on a conceptual basis?
Mr. Brady? Yes, thank you. Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Okay. Oh, yes, me, sorry, forgot.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I'm counting and I'm like, who am I missing? And the second part of the zoning issue, Mr. Furlow.
Sure, again, that would be on a conceptual basis, does the board feel that the issuance of a special use permit for this proposed use should be further considered by going through the Plan Commission and the zoning?
So that would be more specific to the use being proposed right now?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Papantos?
No.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
No.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
I actually see it as an appropriate use, yes.
You said no.
No, I said yes.
Oh, so then it fails.
Is it, that's a
3 and 3?
tie. Well, we'll have to revisit that.
It's 3-3. Again, this is concept approval. Yeah. It's not a formal denial or a formal approval. The petitioner is free to move forward with the zoning application, having listened to all the comments made tonight by the board members, and hopefully incorporating those comments into the plan.
There is actually one more serious consideration, and that is the subject of the TIF request. The the initial ask here is 1.8 million. Does the village feel that, do the trustees feel that we could support the project to this level? I think is that a good way of phrasing it?
Can we keep it just general as, are you willing to incentivize the project? Well, we can deal with the level of incentivization at a later date. But right now, the general yes or no, so if the petitioner has an understanding of...
Yeah, but if they come forward, if we say yes and somebody's thinking 200,000 and we...
I can't hear you. We have not done a proper analysis of the TIF yet.
Okay.
The number you put out there, 1.8, is accurate. That is the ask. But before we negotiate a deal, we should probably have a little more substance behind that provided to you.
Sound advice. So then the question would be, would the board be willing to provide TIF incentive? Is that a more accurate question?
At some level.
Got a nod from the brains? Okay. Trustee Papantos?
No.
Trustee Lang?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Kruger?
No.
Trustee Brady?
I'll go no.
Wait, did they say yes or no?
That was a unanimous no.
Okay. You too?
I would give some, but not that. I'd go yes.
Okay.
So is that muddy direction enough? This is concept review, and it's basically the ball's back in their court, right?
That's correct.
All right.
Now, does that mean they can never come back?
No, they can move
come back.
forward. They can move forward with the zoning application.
Thank all of you for the time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting proposal. Clerk Simpson, we are at official communications. I have one. I have a sad one. We were recently informed of the unfortunate passing of Florence Berman, a co-founder of Chicago's iconic Superdog Drive-In. Florence co-founded the drive-in with her husband Maury. The two were personified on the roofs of the Chicago and Wheeling restaurants as two giant 12-foot hot dog sculptures nicknamed Flory and Maury. And by the way, ours are taller than the original ones. Superdog has been around for 70 years since the couple opened the northwest side location in 1948. The Wheeling location on Milwaukee Avenue opened in 2010. And the village of Wheeling sends their condolences to the Berman family and thanks Maury and Flory for their super contribution to Wheeling's Restaurant Row. I was on the board when they finally decided to move forward. They had had the property for quite a while, and they were just using it for storage, and they finally decided to come forward and build. And I was very happy to see that go in on Restaurant Row in Wheeling. I think it was a great statement for us. Ken, you were there.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was Ray? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, I'm very happy that they came to our town. And they were a great pair. I bumped into Maury going into claim jumpers one night. Like, what are you doing? He goes, I got to check out the competition. Okay. But yeah, I'm very happy that they came, and very sad to hear about the passing of the founders. Really, it's great. But it's nice to see that their legacy is carrying forward. Trustee Lang, you had something?
I do. I wanted to let the public know that they are invited to a active shooter demonstration here in this room. It will be Tuesday, May 15th from 6:30 to 7:45. It's sponsored by the Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce and the Wheeling Police Department. A little bit on active shooter program. The threat of an active shooter attack is rare, but very real. News stories across the country and the world now show us that. Wheeling Police Sergeants Higham and Elworth believe that individuals, as long as the entire department believe that as well, that individuals should be authorized and empowered to make their own life-saving decisions. Once empowered, individuals must be trained in proactive, responsive options, rather than be passive, mandated, one-size-fits-all response. We should all have the knowledge and the skills to survive when evil comes to your door. Please come to this event to learn more. Tell your friends, families, and coworkers as well. They may be depending on you to know what to do. There is always a way. There is always a better way. Again, May 15th, Tuesday night, 6:30 to 7:45 in this room.
Thank you, Trustee Lang.
I have something too.
Clerk Simpson.
This on May 19th, Saturday, the Wheeling Garden Club will have their annual plant sale in front of St. Joseph the Worker, and it'll be from 8 a.m. until noon. They'll be selling hanging baskets, flats, and perennials from their gardens themselves, and there will be two gardeners there to tell you if you have any questions about gardening. And it's from 8 to 12 on May 19th in front of St. Joseph the Worker.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. Trustee Papantos, Trustee Kruger, you're after.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to the Wheeling Park District. President Stein is with us tonight. We all went over and saw the groundbreaking. The expansion is on for the Community Rec Center, and I'm sure it's going to be even better than what we can imagine. Thank you so much for serving the community. This area is growing. Take a look at the town center, take a look at the Park District, this building, what we're doing. Wheeling is growing and people want to be here. And thank you for your part in it, President Stein. And congratulations to the Wheeling Police Department, especially K-9 Officer Riggs. You know, don't tell Officer Conchas that I said that, but you know, I think Riggs gets a better billing, and certainly to our gang saturation unit, it's quite an honor. And at the end of last month on Arbor Day, I got to go to Whitman School and watch these students plant a tree, and it was great. These kids all were able to tell those present what Arbor Day was about. Superintendent Hoffman had half a speech taken away because they did it for him, and did a really great job. And I commend the village for having this and participating with our students in our local schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger.
Thank you, President Horker. I've got a few quick things. Public Works recycling event on Saturday. I don't know what you guys did, but it was amazing. I had a lot of recycling, and I was in and out of there in literally 6 minutes. So, and it was pretty crowded, so well done. I'm sure you guys give out some results at another future date, right? Relay for Life event was on Saturday, May 5th as well, so I had to dump off my junk over at Public Works and then run over to Prospect High School. It was very well attended because this year they've decided to consolidate. It used to be the Relay for Life for Wheeling and Mount Prospect, but now they've sort of consolidated. It's now the Relay for Life for North Cook County, and it include Arlington Heights, Prospect Heights. St. Vitus had a huge contingent of walkers and volunteers, and it was my great pleasure to welcome the participants and thank the volunteers on behalf of the village. Again, congratulations to Officers Canchis and Riggs, and happy Police Week to our superheroes in blue polyester, and happy Clerks Week to our dear Clerk Simpson. And welcome back, Trustee Brady. It's been really, really lonely on my right side, so thank you for being back today.
Feels good.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Kruger. If there are...
No, I'm going to keep it short. He's running out of air.
You looked anxious. Oh, okay.
Feels good to be back.
I like the foliage.
You know, I haven't had much to do except watch hair grow. Yes, a month.
You need, yeah. You have before you the bills for April 12th through May 2nd. I need a motion to approve them.
So moved.
I'll second.
That'd be a motion from Trustee Kruger, and we'll take Lang as the second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes, we have no executive session tonight, so I need a motion to adjourn.
Wait just a second.
What? Just a minute.
All right, go ahead.
So moved.
Now I'd like a motion to adjourn from Trustee Papantos, second.
Second.
Trustee Krueger, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for sharing your evening with us. Meeting adjourned.